You are welcome to LFN What's Your Say? The #1 listening show where we discuss real issues with real people like you. We are still featuring R. Kelly. Real name, Robert Sylvester Kelly. Also known as the R&B King. R. Kelly has for long been fond of going to trials and not saying a word. During his New York trial, for example, he didn't even give a closing statement before the judgment was read. Known to be legal smart, many people think remaining quiet was a legal stunt. However, there is more to this than we may imagine. During his sentencing that took place on 29th of July 2022, R. Kelly was asked by the judge if he had anything he wished to say before the actual sentencing. His attorney Jennifer Bonjean replied on his behalf saying her client had no further comment. When the judge asked Kelly if this was his wish, he was heard in his typical R. Kelly voice say, "My lord, that is my wish." But why would he have nothing to say, considering he was faced with a possible life sentence, and given this, he would not get another chance to express what he truly felt? It turns out this was all his attorney's idea. Remember, pre-sentencing, Bonjean had filed a motion suggesting that sentencing be postponed until a date after the upcoming Chicago trial, citing a violation of her client's Fifth Amendment right to protect himself against self-incrimination. This was however dismissed and the sentencing date kept prior to the Chicago trial. Why the court ignored Bonjean's concerns, only God knows. Smart Jennifer Bonjean was quick to read the ill intentions of the government and advised her client to remain silent throughout the sentencing hearing. No wonder the judge went as far as asking Kelly whether it was indeed his wish to remain silent, even after his attorney had made it clear that Robert would pass the opportunity to speak. One may wonder why she had to ask Robert the same question again, after his attorney had spoken on his behalf. It sounded as though she was trying to get him to say something, and probably incriminate himself. The attorney's statement on this matter should have been sufficient, and there was no need for judge to cross-check with her client. Usually in court, you are expected to have had prior preparations with your attorney. And therefore your attorney can do all the talking for you without causing any doubts whether this could have been your opinion. There has been concerns right from the time the New York trial kicked off about the neutrality of Judge Donnelly, who has time and again found fault in the R&B King's motion submissions pre-sentencing. Every motion filed by Bonjean she regarded null and void, including the RICO contestation where Bonjean suggested that the prosecution just didn't do enough to determine an enterprise, and she had a good point. But the response from the judge, which in my opinion was quite inept, suggested that was the government's position and that was final. She saw completely no need to look back into what the RICO Act actually states, so that she could make a more accurate interpretation. All this made her appear adamant that government would not change their mind about this. Bonjean further filed another motion expressing concern that R. Kelly's Fifth Amendment right, which allows for his protection against self-incrimination, would be violated if the New York sentencing was held before the Chicago trial. This was a valid concern, but as usual, like every other motion that she submitted, it too fell on deaf ears. And finally at sentencing, one could see that R. Kelly was the second-class citizen in the room. The one to be blamed by everybody else and blamed nobody himself. The one whose life was on the line, the one who, if he made a mistake with his words, it would eventually cost him. If Judge Donnelly had really wanted R. Kelly to make that pre-sentencing speech that she asked him about, she shouldn't have scheduled the sentencing before the Chicago trial. And there is no way to say she had forgotten about this possibility because Bonjean's submission is on file as a reminder of her attempt to remind the court. At the beginning of the New York processes, when we were presented Judge Donnelly as a no-nonsense individual that would not tolerate prejudicial tendencies against anyone, we were so excited and hopeful that R. Kelly's case was in the right hands. Down the road, however, as the trial progressed, we saw a lot more entertainment in the courtroom than serious deliberations. We started losing hope in her, and the verdict eventually matched what we expected. Perhaps a male judge, who could have more easily imagined himself in R. Kelly's position, would have made better decisions regarding this case. According to Leona, I think R. Kelly chose to remain silent during the pre-sentencing mitigations because he had taken time to read the judge's mind and realized he had no fighting chance. I too had observed and asked myself, what's there to mitigate? Everything was just a formality and the judge's decision could be easily predicted. Not when it comes to the number of years she gave him though, for I had thought R. Kelly would get the 25 years the prosecution asked for. But an additional 5? Judge Donnelly for sure loves the prosecution so much that she gifted them an additional 5 years on top of what they had requested. She more or less joined the accusers and became one of them. Judge Donnelly. How could she have wished him even more years than the affected persons in this matter? This is what was always termed as crying more than the bereaved at a funeral. According to Yo-Yo to the Flow. Whatever R. Kelly is paying for right now, only God knows. If R. Kelly was mean, sincerely, that is not a crime. Indeed, a male judge would have had a better perspective of this case and made better decisions. It's natural that every woman will hate a mean man, as they naturally want to be treated like queens, and therefore Ann Donnelly would subconsciously imagine R. Kelly is so bad, affecting her own decisions towards him. What is important to note, however, is that no matter how mean a man is, it's not necessarily criminal. Besides, no mean man would take his girlfriends on $5,000 shopping sprees, or holidays overseas they eventually used against him as violating the Mann Act. One other issue that we found rather shocking with Ann Donnelly's sentencing was the fine of $100,000 R. Kelly was ordered to pay. Initially, prosecution had requested for only $50,000, but Donnelly decided to double this. We cannot say why, but maybe she will one day have to explain how she and her sentencing team came to this decision. According to Thomas Curtis, how they could turn fellow black people against their own is rather shocking but true. It's so sad that we even get cyber attacks for supporting R. Kelly, especially from fellow black people. This was all a setup cause everyone seems brainwashed. But then, when we think deeper about Thomas Curtis' comment, we get reminded of the days of the infamous slave trade, where Africans managed to sell out their own people in exchange for small meaningless gifts. If this was possible then, why are we surprised by this? If you wish to take part in a live interview discussing any of these topics, let us know by sending an email to sashalfnmedia@gmail.com for scheduling. Thank you for watching today's video, a production of LFN Media, giving you another perspective of issues at hand. We make it our business to keep you updated with the truth amidst the cloud of lies the media wants you to believe. It is therefore important to subscribe to this channel, hit the bell icon and allow all notifications so that you don't miss out whenever we publish a new video.